Today, let's look at a cinema classic, the 1960 film Spartacus. Hey, Cypher here. This movie is a classic, but has a great deal of problems historically. It is a great movie, but really has no bearing on the historical reality. This movie is about the man who led the Third Servile War in 73 BC against ancient Rome. Servile simply refers to the fact that they were slaves, as in a war fought against a slave rebellion. Spartacus was indeed a slave trained as a gladiator. Most gladiators were slaves, and they were pretty well treated, even idolized. Supposedly, Spartacus's master was particularly cruel.
Lady Helena.
He's impertinent. I'll take him.
Impertinent, yes, and he's a coward to boot. I'll have him flogged.
So Spartacus led a revolt that spread across the country, taking on slaves from all over the Italian peninsula. The rebellion grew to over 9,000 people, including non-combatants, as they campaigned to escape the Roman Empire.
Here on Vesuvius, we're safe from attack while we organize ourselves into an army. It may take 6 months, it may take a year, we don't know. Once we're strong enough, we're going to fight our way south to the sea. We're going to arrange for ships with the Cilician pirates. Then the sea will be a road back home for all of us. If you agree, you may join us. If you don't agree, go back before your escape is discovered.
Of course, they were defeated rather handily by the vastly superior Romans, but not without getting a few victories in by the end. Those slaves who fought in the final battle and were captured were all crucified along the road between Rome and Capua. A total of 6,000 slaves were crucified like this. It left a lasting impression on the empire and changed the way they handled slavery.
Did you fear him, Crassus?
Not when I fought him. I knew he could be beaten. But now I fear him. Even more than I fear you.
Me?
Yes, my dear Caesar. You.
As well as making several prominent Romans careers, such as Crassus and Pompey. This movie is very allegorical to a lot of stuff. The book it is based on is full of stupid claims like the Romans turned some of the captured slaves into sausage meat. Luckily, the scriptwriter, Dalton Trumbo, who's actually had a recent movie made after his life, redacted the more wacky stuff. Trumbo meant Spartacus to be suggestive of the McCarthy hearings, but it is also representative of the civil rights movement. Remember, it was released in 1960. There is ultimate significance to the American ideal of freedom and the guilt of slavery in the United States. Kirk Douglas, the main actor who portrays Spartacus, produced this, and Stanley Kubrick directed, rather reluctantly though. So there is a bit of dissonance over what the purpose of this movie was going to be. Laughably enough, Kubrick was actually the most concerned with accuracy. All of that is tightly wound into the fabric of this movie's narrative, so of course it's inaccurate. Putting modern values into a movie about ancient times will always end in falsehood. The real story of Spartacus is shrouded in mystery. Historians have not been able to unearth any great detail about his biography. Most of what we know comes from the Roman perspective. 5 ancient historians do speak of him, but it is difficult to piece together. There was much myth-making even then. A whole lot of this movie cannot be fact-checked, and pretty much amounts to historic fiction. So I will only say what is verifiably false. It is implied that the coming of Christianity reformed the Roman Empire in such a way that slavery no longer existed.
In the last century, before the birth of the new faith called Christianity, which was destined to overthrow the pagan tyranny of Rome and bring about a new society. Yet even at the zenith of her pride and power, the Republic lay fatally stricken with a disease called human slavery.
No, that's just stupid. And slavery outlasted the empire in Europe before serfdom made it unnecessary. Spartacus was not born into slavery. We do not know anything about his parents, but he was a soldier before becoming a prisoner and subsequently taken as a slave. He was never in some Thracian mine, and instead immediately taken to be a gladiator. Batiatus was certainly cruel, but he was not this groveling person as depicted.
We're both Roman patriots, sir. You're a great one. I, of course, smaller. But we both believe in Roman fair play. You want something from me, I would be lacking in respect for my own conscience if I did not say that I wish something from you.
He's supposed to be an analog of people stuck serving the cruel system, but Batiatus was especially cruel by at least Plutarch's account. Spartacus's lover was not some Briton. She was said to have been Thracian. She was the reason for his initial outburst, yes, but not like the movie depicts. According to two historians, she had a dream that told him to revolt. It was wrapped up in mysticism and callbacks to the two other servile wars. They did not see themselves as some suppressed class. In fact, no one did. The standard rhetoric about slavery at that point in time was the Aristotelian idea of them being inherently lower beings destined to serve. There was no contradiction of this in the movie, because it's more concerned with the civil rights movement than dealing with deeper meanings of ancient slavery. They are also more concerned with alluding to Christian values than the very real religion that these people participated in. There's absolutely no sense of who anyone actually was as an ancient culture in this movie. Crassus never engaged any gladiators in some personal entertainment.
My young friends desire a private showing of 2 pairs.
2 pairs to the death.
To the death, your ladyship? Here, no. We never fight them to the death.
Today is an exception.
He was perhaps the richest man to ever live, but he would have shown off his wealth by sponsoring games in Capua, rather than some silly side action. This is just to show the excess of Rome, but it is a bit of a slander on Crassus. Spartacus was not some revolutionary. Any number of people have claimed that he was trying to free all the slaves, but there is no basis in such a claim. He was trying to free only his band, but not all slaves altogether. Gracchus would have been dead for half a century by this point. This whole plebeian dispute is silly and had been solved for years.
Oh, Crassus, don't talk about Gracchus. He's so hateful.
For Gracchus, hatred of the patrician class is a profession, and not such a bad one either.
The movie could have done better to not include this character at all. Along the same line, Julius Caesar had nothing to do with the Third Servile War.
For temporary command of the garrison during his absence, I propose Caius Julius Caesar.
He was being held captive by pirates at that time, so why would he be fighting slaves? Also, the whole prefect of the city rank that was given to Caesar did not exist at that point in time. So what was supposed to be happening with Caesar? Because this makes no sense. The corruption subplot where Gracchus is railing against bribery is silly.
We buy everything else these days. No reason why we shouldn't be charged for patriotism. What's your fee?
Bribery was perfectly accepted at that point in time, and no one considered otherwise. Even the real Gracchus 50 years prior would have said so. Crassus's personal slave did not run away. He had a lot of slaves, but Spartacus's Servile War was too far away from Rome for that to happen. The rebellion seems a little too nice. A significant omission that would countermand the whole noble air put on this movie is that there was at least once when Spartacus ordered the execution of 300 prisoners in sacrificial honor of his fallen lieutenant. We certainly don't know enough to dispute the scene where he stops the Romans from being forced to fight gladiatorially, but given what we know he did do, the nobility thing seems, fairly incorrect. Crassus did not use the rebellion to become a temporary dictator. No one held dictatorship from 78 BC to 49 BC. That's like saying George Washington was the US's 12th president. How gullible does Trumbo think we are? When Crassus led the legionaries, he was just a former praetor. He did become a consul because of his success in the war. It was probably one of the chief reasons why Romans voted for him, actually. Okay, this final battle is awesome. It has no basis in reality, like the flaming logs thing is taken from events that happened in Gaul years later. But you have to love the fact that you are seeing 10,000 actual people on screen, marching in formation. Yeah, 10,000 people. Of course, the actual battle was about 10 times that many people, but even getting the number that they got in this is stupendous, and something we hardly ever see as viewers, especially now that everyone is getting lazy and using CG graphics to multiply their armies. The real thing is so much better. The whole ending is great fun, especially the whole "I'm Spartacus" scene, which has been so influential throughout the years.
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
But it is false. Spartacus was killed during the Third Servile War and therefore never captured. The final scene with a staged gladiator fight, and the heart-wrenching thing with Spartacus's newly freed wife coming with his newborn baby while he's crucified, is all false, because he was dead before that could have happened. So in conclusion, yeah, it's horrible historically, but it does have some redeeming qualities. You do get a sense of the horror that the Romans felt over Spartacus and his whole rebellion.
The Republic is still weak from 20 years of civil strife. We're engaged in 2 wars, one in Spain and the other in Asia. Pirates have cut off our Egyptian grain supply, and Spartacus raids the commerce of all South Italy. Half the precincts of Rome are without bread.
The city's close to panic.
You also get to see how the Senate worked, how things were done, and the accuracy there is glorious to behold. It's just unfortunate that the narrative is what is so egregiously wrong with this movie. There's just something about this movie that just makes me want to forgive it for all of the inaccuracy. It's just withstood the test of time, and is definitely one of those all-time great movies. Who knows what a historically accurate Spartacus movie would look like, anyways? I just don't want to see any more misconceptions coming from this movie, so hopefully this helps.